Do you want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day? It's no secret it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin and welcome to It's No Secret with Dr. T. Now with me today is Dr. James Fedich. He is a practicing chiropractor who runs a clinic that collects over $2 million a year. Now his business is called Village Family Clinic, and he's also the author of Secrets of $1 Million Practice and podcast host called Path to Success with Dr. J. So welcome Dr. J to It's No Secret with Dr. T. I like this use of letters. How are you doing this morning?
Dr. J and Dr. T. Thanks for returning the favor and having me on your show. I'm excited to be on today.
That's right. I have been on Path to Success with Dr. J. That was a lot of fun. So I'm assuming we're going to have more fun today. Okay, your background is chiropractic. First of all, just want to know, how did you get into chiropractic? What was it that pushed you into that direction?
Yeah, I think my story is similar to most people that get into healthcare, at least the ones that get into it for the right reason. I was 13. I was driving to a wedding in upstate New York, and I'm an athletic guy. If you don't know, I'm 6'6", 240. I exercised a lot, played a lot of sports.
You're a big bugger.
Basketball, actually. Yeah, I played basketball in Australia, actually, for a summer, and that's how I've been over there. But anyways, I played a lot of sports, and we were going to a wedding in upstate New York, a 4 or 5 hour drive. We got sideswiped by a car, ran through a stop sign, and ended up putting the whole family in the hospital. Mostly ended up okay, collapsed lungs, concussions, that stuff. But I came out with pretty bad back problems. And actually, my grandmother had been going to a chiropractor back when nobody went to chiropractors, early 1900s. And my parents took me, nobody helped me. My back was killing me. I was laying on the floor all day. I'd come home from school and lay on the floor for 3-4 hours. Couldn't play sports. And that's really all I did. So my mom takes me to the chiropractor, and I'm feeling better in a couple of weeks. And then we had a career paper due at school. My dad was an engineer, which I thought was pretty boring, and my mom stayed home. So I figured I'm going to hang out with this chiropractor for a couple of days. And at 13, I told my parents I'm going to grow up and be a chiropractor one day. And they never told me till I was 27 and graduated that they just thought that was a 13-year-old kid talking. But from that moment on, I decided I was going to be a chiropractor. He helped me with my back, and I got to play back playing sports and had opportunities to play in other countries and everything else. And I said, I'm going to help people just like this guy helped me. And here I am all these years later.
So it's been good to you. You've got a thriving practice. You've written a great book. What took you down the business side of things? Because you could have quite easily just worked for somebody else or had an average chiropractic clinic. What gave you that burn to actually want to turn it into a business?
Yes, I think I was kind of lucky or whatever you want to say, but I dove right into the business knowledge. I started practice right out of school and really found myself diving into the business and knowledge at the end of the practice and really falling in love with the business process. And then found out that just really loved studying business, and I kept growing and growing the practice. And I've been lucky. There's a lot of practitioners love practicing and helping patients. There's a lot of practitioners that like the business end, and I've kind of been blessed that I really like both ends of it. And the practice was to really steadily grow over time.
So it was the business sort of just developed out of your passion for what you were doing, and because you were doing it so well, the business just grew behind it.
Yeah, it's just steadily grow every year, and I really kind of figured out pretty quickly that you got to learn the business end of it and studying marketing and business books. And I found I really loved that, and I love going to marketing seminars and business seminars, not just the technique seminars. And I was just meeting with my accountant a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "You're the only client I've ever had that your business goes up every single year. You've never had a flat year, a down year. It's just we just grow and grow every single year. It's gone up since I've been open, but I just really pour myself into the business end of it as well as into the treatment end of it."
No, I like that. So it's just been consistent growth the whole time. So did you say that was your accountant that actually said that to you?
Yeah. He said, I got all these clients, small business. I never really see anybody. You just think you've never had a flat year, even never. It's 15, 20% every year. And yeah, that's what I coach young docs. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but they hear that you're not going to build $1 million practice your first year out of practice. It's steadily growth, and it takes time to build it up, as yours did as well. But it's just been steadily growth for many years, and I'm blessed to be where I'm at today.
So I find that interesting that you said, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And there's a lot of new graduates or people in any business. It's not just in healthcare industry, but every business, they open up the door and they don't realize you've got to put in some really good foundations before you can ever build a strong business on top of it. It's no different to building a house.
Yeah, there's so much background work now. People see, me or you in our position after years in the field, and maybe you're leaving early, spend time with the family, but you got to put in a lot of hours and time and effort, and like you said, there's a lot of foundational work that needs to be done for years. And And there's very few people that really do it quickly. There's a lot of those, stories people tell, but really it's just years of hard work and studying and learning, just like yourself, right?
Well, what I find interesting is I sold my last podiatry clinic almost 2 years ago. So I haven't actually owned a podiatry business for 2 years. And I was talking to someone yesterday about it, and I went, what's really interesting is when you've built a business before and you've done it over a couple of decades and you have really good, strong foundations, I'm quite eager to almost set up another practice to see how fast I can build it again, because I know as soon as I open the practice, I've already got the sturdy foundations, because I think once you learn these skills, you will take them with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like what Jim Rohn teaches. It's not really like the practice growing. It's kind of you growing. And like you said, with all your experience, you've grown, you have the business knowledge and the systems. You do it a heck of a lot faster now. But a lot of it is you need to grow as a person, as a business owner, as a manager and a leader. That it takes years of your personal growth before you're ready to run. If you take the old thing, you take the doc doing 100,000 a year and doc doing $1 million a year and flip offices, how fast does it take to get the numbers to flip, because the $100,000 a year guy isn't equipped to run $1 million a year practice. You got to grow into that kind of growth slowly over time, or quickly, but you just got to be that kind of person that can run that kind of practice.
Oh, definitely. I was talking to Calvin Wayman recently. He's been on my podcast twice as a guest, and the last time he was on, he was talking about he's on this what he calls the millionaire journey, and he's documenting with video going from leaving his job, owning, being in debt, through to making $1 million per year consistently. And he said it's not about making the $1 million; it's about becoming the person, becoming the man that deserves to have that $1 million. You can't just have it handed to you. You've got to become the person that knows how to make it.
Yeah, that's such a key point. Hopefully, really people take that home. It took me years to figure that out. I think Jim Rohn was one always saying that, and that's why somebody wins the lottery for $10 million. The average lottery owner ends up with less money than before they won, because they're not the type of person that can handle the money and knows how to do finances, and if they haven't become the type of person to handle that money. So absolutely, that's a key point. It's hard to get across, but it's so important to understand. You got to become that kind of person first.
So you mentioned that you're now you're doing coaching for younger health practitioners, not just in chiropractic. What pushed you into that area? Why did you want to start sharing your knowledge with other people?
Yeah, it was kind of similar story. I think to most people that get into this, at least again for the right reasons. But after the practice started getting bigger and bigger, and colleagues started hearing what we're doing and the kind of numbers and stuff, I got a lot of people asking for help, and people were showing up at the clinic and trying to shadow for a day, and it kind of got a little crazy. People want to be in the office all the time, and I'm still trying to run a business and didn't really have time, and I got a young family and all that. So I said, it's all these people want to help. I'm trying to help people, and I wasn't charging anything, but they wanted to come down to the office, teach me how to do this, teach me how to do this. And so I said, how can I help these people without them being in my clinic all the time? I was still trying to run it. So that's where the book came about. So I spent, good 6 months, maybe a year, getting up an hour early every day, writing the book. And I wrote down some of my best tips on how to grow their practice there. And I thought I'd be able to help a lot more docs across the country and all over the world without, physically being in presence with them or physically talking to them. So started with the book, and I just did the book, and I didn't do a whole lot with it. It was just out there. People were buying it here and there. And then because of the book, you get some requests for more help, or I got asked to speak, get some seminars and that kind of stuff. So then that's developed into a little bit of a coaching business on the side as well.
That's great. And I'll give that book another plug. It's called Secrets of $1 Million Practice. And I know it's available on Amazon because I went and had a look last night. So if people want to pick up that book, they can. And where else can people get hold of you? If people want to get in touch with you or ask you any questions, where can they get hold of you?
Yeah, the easiest place is my website. Got a lot of free stuff there, free blog posts, and there's free audio and all that. Like I said, I really do this to give back more than anything. But it's just my name. It's Dr. James Fedich, Fedich.com. DrJamesFedich.com. Check it out for lots of free resources.
Okay, that's cool. Now, when I was looking through the contents of your book, I was giving it a quick read. One of the things that you mentioned was so-called gurus telling people what to do without really having any background in that area. And I must admit, I get really annoyed with that as well.
Yeah, it's I think our profession, chiropractic podiatrists are such a similar profession, really, but chiropractic, it's really just people are starting to skip. The steps always were. You build a successful business and you practice for a while, and then later you teach people what you've done to be successful. And for whatever reason, especially in our field, there's a lot of people that have never had successful practices or barely practiced a couple of years. I mean, some of the biggest names are professionally practiced for a couple of years out there, never had successful practices. And there's a lot of lying because when you go to these seminars, there's only so many people, and you find out the real truth to what's going on. And it's just a shame because they're, I don't mind people making a living. It's the point they're teaching these young doctors what to do to build a practice when they never did it. And how valuable is that advice when you really didn't do it first? And I feel like you're kind of cheating a little bit. You're skipping the step, pay your dues and do it yourself and then teach it when you've actually done it successfully. I'm sure you probably agree with that as well.
Oh, I agree 100%. There's another person that I'm good friends with, Mark Menard, and he goes off about people who are, because anyone can write a book these days, and because it's so easy to do. You don't need to have any skill or experience, but you can pick one little area, you can write a book on that, and you can make yourself out to be a perceived expert, which if you're offering if there's good advice in the book, I think that's fine. But it's when you go out there and you start coaching other people on what to do, but you've never actually done it. So I always say to people, just be really careful. If you've got a coach, go and check them out. If they're coaching you in certain areas, go and check out their background. What have they done in the past? What businesses have they had? What successes have they had? And if there hasn't been any, if their only successful business has been coaching people, I think sometimes you just got to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, two funny. One funny. I just signed up a new coaching line a couple weeks ago for a different profession, and I don't know what he was talking about, but he's like, "You make all your living coaching," and I said, "No, the practice makes my living. This is just on the side a little bit." He's like, "What do you mean? I was at the seminar. Everybody's selling me masterminds. They're selling this and that, and they're making all this money just selling these stuff, and they're not really making any money in the real business." But basically, he was like dumbfounded that I'm making my living in the practice and not coaching, and and you really should. I forgot what book I just read, but you don't want a coach that's made his money doing what you want to be coached in, not coaching. Like you've made your money in podiatry, made all, you sold and bought businesses, and that's where you made your living. So now you're more than qualified to coach other people. But like you said, if you only made your living as a coach and not as the purveyor of whatever service, I think we've got a little backwards.
Yeah, I do know a couple of people with, that are podiatrists that they worked for 5 years, and then after 5 years they were setting up a coaching business. And over that 5 year period, they never really had a successful business. It was just they had a business, but the whole coaching side of things looked so good. And I remember them there was one particular guy, and I remember him talking at this seminar. So I went along to it. Well, I was going along anyway. He just happened to be one of the speakers. And when he finished, I just went, "That was awful. That was really, really, that was really, really awful." But one thing that stood out was, during the break, someone came up to me and says, "Gee, wasn't his talk fantastic?" And I went, "Well, that's interesting." I said, tell me why you think it was so interesting." And it's because they had never heard that information before. So I think sometimes, like you and I, if we've got a lot of experience and then you hear someone, and you can pick someone that doesn't have as much, we can see all the holes in it. But if somebody's never been exposed to it before, even those little guys that are just starting out with basic information can still be useful for them. But I think you can outgrow your coach quick. Then you need to move on to something a little bit bigger and better.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Doc.
Because I reckon, like I've said to people, because I've got a few coaching clients that I look after, and I've asked them, "Have you ever done any coaching before?" And they said, "Oh yeah, I've been part of this program, and I've been part of this program." And I go, "Well, why have you left?" And they go, "I just felt like I'd outgrown them." And I went, "That's great. That's what I wanted to hear." Because I knew the programs they were with, and I can understand why they'd outgrown them because I knew who was behind them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people trying to take shortcuts. I guess, like you said, that's the easy part about publishing books. Gotten easier, and it's easier to get your name online. And and I think the chiropractic profession is probably even worse. Most of the coaches out there never really were successful, which is kind of a shame. But there's plenty of good people out there. It is a shame sometimes it gives people a bad name too if they went with an inexperienced coach, they weren't able to help them, and then they get turned off. I mean, I still have. What do I have? 3 coaches now. I mean, I still have multiple coaches, and I'm a coach. Coaching is really super valuable. So we don't want to turn people off to it. That's kind of one of the other things sometimes gets me a little upset. We don't want to turn people away from something they need.
No. I think coach. Like I have a coach. I have a mindset coach, and if it wasn't for my mindset coach, Deb Johnson, I think my head would have fallen off ages ago because she helps me keep it screwed on. So I'm a huge believer of coaching. But I'm also a huge believer that if you feel that you've outgrown them, you need to move on and you need to go and find someone else to sort of re-stimulate the creative juices in your brain. But the other part, like this particular podcast, it's not just health practitioners that listen to this. There's a lot of small business people. And one of the things in your book you mentioned, and we talk about it a lot too, is about retention. So, and when we're saying that, we're talking about retaining patients, but every business needs to retain customers, clients, whatever they want to call them. What's your thought process behind retention?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's every kind of business. I'm always amazed when you go to even like the coffee shop or any place and there's no way to keep in touch with you. They don't ask for an email or anything like that. So you're absolutely right. It's any business. And healthcare providers, I think sometimes we're the worst. We're always trying to get new patients, which are, of course, really important. But keeping the ones you have are really important, and keeping them coming in and coming back and referring is super important. There's just so many systems that you can set up to do that, and keeping the ones you already have. It's, I don't remember the stat. You probably remember, it was like 10 times cheaper to keep a customer you have than get a new one.
Yeah.
So it's always more cost effective, and you can set it up and systematize a lot of it. So that's really important as well. So yeah, it's a lot of small business owners want to focus on getting new clients, but don't do much to keep the ones they have. So it's a huge thing. It's one of the things I'm always working with my clients and my docs in my office. And I work with them constantly, training my other doctors that work for me on retention strategies and how to talk to the patients. We do recall mailings and just keeping in touch real regular. I'll have a coaching client and they don't want to, spend money on a monthly newsletter or a recall mailing, but they'll spend, tens of thousands of dollars on Facebook ads to try to get a couple leads that won't come back in. But they don't want to spend a couple bucks on a newsletter, birthday cards, and all that stuff that works well as well.
That's a really good point. And once I'll just go back a step when you mentioned you're walking to a business, but it could be a coffee shop, it could be a pool supply business. There's so many businesses out there that they don't ask for an email address, and all they're thinking about is the transaction that's right in front of them. They're not thinking about the long-term value of that actual customer and what benefits they can actually have the business and how many referrals they can bring in if they just nurture them a little bit.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I know. Me and you're always thinking that way when you're a business guy. I go into places all the time, and they never try to capture name and email, or I'll think of too, and so many places, and I'll think this happens all the time. You're like, well, I haven't been to this restaurant in a year, just for no reason. You just haven't been. But I didn't get a postcard or a letter. How you been? I haven't got a birthday card, or I haven't heard from them. Next thing you know, you just don't go for a year, and it's maybe nothing they did wrong. You just haven't kept in touch with them. Or the killer in my practice, you've probably seen this. This is the one I always show on to coaching clients, but we do like post-surgical. We have physical therapists and stuff, but even for chiropractic, we'll get a guy with 8 screws in his neck and 2-3 metal rods, and it was 4, 5, 6 months ago. And we like to know which surgeon did it because of different techniques. And we'll always be like, well, which surgeon did this major spinal fusion? Like, I don't remember the guy's name. He's something I don't remember. He was in like this guy sliced you open and put like 10 screws in your neck, and you can't remember his name. Like that's not good. So I think we're all guilty of that. But keeping in touch with people, and a lot of times, people just want to spend money getting new clients, not keeping the ones they have. But that's not usually the most cost-effective thing to do.
I think that was funny when you said that about the surgeon. And I know it's one of those things that maybe people try and block out surgery that they've had and they don't want to think about it. But I've bumped into people and I say, oh yeah, I saw a podiatrist, or I saw a doctor, or my accountant, that I was seeing, and same thing. What was their name? And they cannot remember the name. They can't tell you the name of their business. And it could be an accountant. They could have the same account for 10 years. And you say, oh, what's your accountant's name? And they'll go, David. And you go, okay, where is David? Oh, geez, where is he's just behind the back of this school. What's the name of his business? I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't tell you what it is. And it's because the only contact they have with them is when they're actually doing their tax return. Now, my accountant's called David, and he does work behind a school. So, David, I apologise that I'm using you as an example. I do know the name of your business.
But think about what you just said for referrals too. How are you supposed to refer somebody? What if that's fine? That was the best accountant ever, but you can't remember his full name or his address or anything. So, and that's really on the business's fault for not keeping in touch with you.
I know, but it happens all the time. There's so many people. You'll catch up with friends at a coffee shop, or you can be anywhere. You can be at a party, you can be at a barbecue, and somebody will be talking about another business, and they cannot remember the name of the business. And straight away, there might be 10 people there, and that was an opportunity for those 10 people to be exposed to your business, yet you didn't care enough to actually stay in touch with them.
Yeah, and I don't remember what I read years ago, but he said, really, the more you keep in touch with the patients or clients, or for any business, the better you're going to be, the more you can afford. I mean, we do a monthly paper mail newsletter. We do birthday cards, Christmas cards, Thanksgiving cards. 4th of July, we do a 4th of July letter. And then probably 5 or 6 other postcards. So we're in their mailbox at least 20 times a year. I send a weekly email. We do a voice blast 3-4 times a year. So they hear from us like 30 times a year. So it's hard to forget my office. And people always kind of joke, unless you're dying or moving far, far away, you're going to keep hearing from me.
Well, I remember the greatest car salesman in the world. I can't remember his name, so this is really good about retention. But it was just a passing fact that someone told me once. But there's a guy in America, and he's renowned as being the greatest car salesman in the world. And I'm sure if you Google him, you see his name. And they reckon when you bought a car from him, you get a birthday card or something else from him every year for the rest of your life. It never ends. And that's his long term. He's just built up his reputation. And I think hotels are shockers for doing this. You can go there, drop $200-$300 a night, stay there multiple nights, and you don't even get a thank you afterwards.
Yeah, that's why it's a good thing sort of for us to do it right, because it's just more promise for us. I mean, yeah, we do a shock and all, like a welcome box, and people are just astounded. They get a box from a doctor. I mean, who does that? They get a box in the mail with some pain cream and an ice pack and a welcome letter and a couple little things in there, and they're just blown away. And that increases retention, referrals, and all that. It just doesn't cost a lot of money. It's a simple thing to do, but people are so underappreciated and they're not used to getting this kind of stuff that it makes it easier for us. So it's kind of a good thing.
I think you're right. It's feeling underappreciated. That I think that's the key. As soon as people feel like, they always say, to have a great business, you've got to have people know, like, and trust you. And I think you only get that if you appreciate the person that actually walks through your front door, and you put a little bit of time and effort, and you spend a little bit of money, you put the back into your business to actually retain that customer, patient, or client, whatever you want to call them, and find some different ways of actually doing it.
Yeah, there's so many ways, and people always go, I can't do that for my business. So there's always a way to capture their names and emails, addresses, and there's always a way to apply this to any type of business, and it's so important. And I said I have trouble with coaching clients. They want to spend money to get new clients in the door, and let's spend a little money nurturing the leads you have. You probably have thousands of names in your database that haven't heard from you in years, and so let's start nurturing the people that already came in.
Isn't that funny? It is one of those things. Every time I've spoken to a coaching client, a big thing is, I want to get more new patients. And I think they do neglect. But what are you doing already with the patients that are already in your business? How are you actually looking after them? Now, you mentioned that you do a newsletter. How often do you send your newsletter out?
We still do a paper newsletter every month. Every single month it goes out.
Okay, so do you do electronic one as well, or just paper?
The newsletter's paper, we email it to, and then I actually do a weekly email update I've been doing this year, where I just send a short weekly email update of what the promos are in the office, what's going on. So you'll get a paper newsletter, and you get a weekly email from me as well.
Okay, so you do a paper one once a month, and now do you send that to every single client that's on your database, or do you send it to only ones that have been in, say, in the last 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, we play around with that. I'd actually love your opinion on this. The coaching client just asked me today. I mean, the old school thinking in our line was after 2 years, they're not really a patient anymore. So I'll typically stop at about 2 years, only because within 2 years, our database is over 5,000. So it's getting pretty big. I think it's 5,500 been in with the last 2 years. So that's what I've been capping it off at. When we were smaller, I sent to everybody that had ever been in. But lately, I've been doing 2 years. What's your opinion on that? Because there's a lot of opinions. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
It was exactly the same, 2 years. I actually believe if the person hasn't been in your business within 2 years, more than likely, they're probably now seeing another business.
Yeah, there was some study about that years ago.
Yeah, or they don't like you. I think it depends what type of business you're in too. Like if you're selling cars, then I think a lot of people will hold their cars 3, 4, 5 years. So they may not come back in to buy another car. So I think it's important to stay in touch with them. But yeah, I do not receive one paper newsletter in the mail. I used to, but I don't anymore. But I think actually Barbecues Galore, which is a barbecue business over here in Australia, I get an electronic newsletter from them every month. And I think once a year I do get one leading up to Christmas time, and I read it from front to back because you don't get any newsletters anymore.
Look how fast you just rattled off that barbecue place's name, That came right off your tongue. You didn't even search for it, so it works, The name flipped right off your mouth.
Yeah, and I look forward to their monthly newsletter, but they're probably, how can I put it? I think a newsletter is only worthy if it's newsworthy. It's something that when I receive it, I'm interested in reading it. It's not a newsletter that you're sending it just to tell people how wonderful you are each month.
Yeah, and it's not easy to do. No, we have one of those services that does a lot of the heavy lifting for us, but it still pays off, and I like to be in their mailboxes as much as I can. Okay,
so with the content of your newsletter, what is it that you put in there on a regular basis that you believe makes people want to read it?
Yeah, it's one of those, it's 4 pages and they kind of fold it twice, but it ends up being like a quarter page and they mail it off. But it's a lot of it's healthcare related. And then we just really, it's a couple different healthcare articles, a couple testimonials, but we try to make, something healthcare related that they might be interested in. What is carpal tunnel? And there'll be a case study on that and some stuff like that. It's really all healthcare stuff. It could be a little more personal. And then, we always have stuff going on in the office. So we usually take like a whole page to talk about that. This month we're doing this promotion, we're giving this away, we're doing this and all the fun stuff that's going on in here. So it's nothing too fancy. We could probably spend a little more time on it, but we make sure to get it out every month. Keeps in the patient's mind, and we always have like our offers on there and what's going on in the clinic that month.
Okay, I remember when we had our clinic newsletter, two things that used to really stand out. Sam, who used to work with me, we used to have Sam's recipe every month, so she would actually make something, take a photo of it, and she'd put all the ingredients down and how she made it. And we used to get a lot of comments back on that. And one of the other ones, we used to have a friend of mine who loved rum, so she used to write a rum article every month, and she was called the Rum Wench. And that was my friend Nikki Jerd, and she's actually been on the show. Oh, maybe I shouldn't let people know that Nikki Jerd was the Rum Wench. But those two things that had nothing to do with podiatry were the two articles that people commented on the most when they actually came back into the clinic.
Nice. Yeah, that'll go show you. Yeah, personal connection is always the way to go. The more you're going to share personal stuff and, more interesting stuff is always the way to go. And I know a lot of people talk about their families a lot in the newsletter, and that kind of stuff does really well as well. So, yeah, more personal and unique is definitely going to pull in better.
Yeah, and we used to keep it seasonal too. Yeah, so if it was leading up to Mother's Day, we might have done a bit of a review on champagne or where you could get good gift baskets from. And if it was Father's Day, we'd give it a bit of a twist then as well, leading up to Australia Day. So we'd always try and make each newsletter suit the season that we're doing. But yeah, I'm a big believer in staying in touch with your existing clientele as much as you can. But just don't be creepy about it. Don't become too annoying. But I love your idea, what you said about you have your monthly newsletter and then you have a weekly email blast. So those email blasts, do they touch on something that's in the newsletter or completely different news?
A little bit of both. So I've kind of settled on a little formula there. We try to have a main internal event every month, so we want to talk about that a lot. Like July, we're doing a golf club giveaway, a ping driver. If you leave us a review on Facebook or Google, you enter to win a driver. So that was on big story in the newsletter, and then that's part of the newsletter email every month. And then what I've been doing with the email newsletter works pretty good is we have an educational YouTube video on there. So we have our YouTube channel with thousands of videos of my docs talking about different things, and we've been putting those, embedding them right in email, questions about sciatica, and then there's a video of one of the doctors talking about sciatica for a couple minutes. So kind of mixing it with our monthly promo and some good video knowledge information. That's been a pretty good formula I've been using the last few months.
Okay, so how many other doctors have you got working with you?
There's 3 chiropractors here. We have 2 physical therapists. We have an acupuncturist / nutritionist. She has like 4 doctorates, and then we have a medical doc that does pain management, comes in 1 day a week as well.
Okay, so do they all contribute to the newsletter, or is it you that works with the newsletter itself, or is it a team effort?
Yeah, good question. I mean, as a business owner, you've got to be mostly in charge of marketing, so it's mostly me. But I have had them writing articles. I mean, especially some of the chiros have different opinions, and physical therapists come from different backgrounds. So I do have them contributing, and they do contribute to the blog and things like that as well. So other people contribute, but ultimately I'm the one responsible for getting the work done. Was it something they volunteered, or did you ask them, hey, I need you to start writing some articles for me? And would they also write the articles for your website? Yeah. So, one of my younger associates, I kind of told him he had to do it and start writing articles, but then he got really into it and started doing really well with it. And one of the physical therapists came to me with an article. So I guess a little bit of both. I nudged some people and other people nudged me. But then, we use those articles for the blog and for Facebook and press releases and all that kind of stuff as well. And recently I had my one associate write something on car accidents, and we posted it on Facebook, and then we use it as a press release and got it out there, and then it goes on the blog as well. So you can get 3 or 4 uses out of these articles. Before you mentioned about going to events, and then you started learning about business by going to a lot of business events, not just chiropractic events. Do you have your team go to those sort of events as well, or do they only go to chiropractic and you're the only one that thinks about the business, or are they starting to take on some interest in the business as well? That's a great question. I've only ever gone by myself until about this year, and I just kind of brought my 2 chiropractic associates to a last seminar. It was a good one. It was a mix of like chiropractic stuff and business stuff, so it was like a good hybrid where it's not 8 hours of business training or 8 hours of technique. It was, a couple hours of business and a couple hours of technique. But up until this year, it was, all me doing the business stuff and everybody else, me passing along the knowledge. But I did just start getting them involved in it a little bit more.
Okay, that is fantastic. I have one last question for you. And this is a question that I ask everybody. It's a Monday morning tip. Now, it's not just, like I said, it's not just healthcare practitioners listening to this particular podcast. There's people from all different small business backgrounds or people who are thinking about having a small business. And I usually warn people about this question, but I forgot to warn you, but you'll figure it out as we go. So it's it's a Monday morning tip, and someone walks up and you say, "Hey, you're Dr. J. I've read your book, which is called The Success of $1 Million Practice, and I've listened to your podcast as well. I'm about to walk into work. It's Monday morning. I'm going to get there about 8:30. When I sit down at my desk, what's the number one tip or bit of advice that you reckon that you would give me to kick my week off really well?"
Yeah, that's a good thing. Organizing your week is so important. And this was one of the first, I just had a new coach client. It's one of the first things I worked on. So, organizing your whole week and your day is so important. And I've actually tried everything out there. And my best solution right now is a low tech solution. So I have like one of those 6x9 steno books, and I have every day of the week written out: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on the top. And I write down the couple things that I need to get done that are most important things for that day, especially like as providers, we get stuck treating patients all day and you don't get the newsletter out. You don't get the marketing piece out.
Yeah.
So I make sure to write those 3 or 4 important things, like you're on my calendar, my list of, most important things for today.
Oh, that's good to know.
And those real, yeah, of course. So you get those 3 or 4 or 5 most important things to do for the day. I don't draw my whole day out with a couple things I need to do. Interview with Tyson at this time, but then the 4 or 5, get the newsletter out, call about this, and get your important things going out. And then I've actually added onto this to kind of help me too. I mean, I'm kind of like you, where you got all these big ideas going on and so much going on that now I'm keeping a legal pad with me, and I have like my big to-do list there, like the big projects for the year, like launch a podcast or write a book, the things you're not going to get done this week or today. Those big things are going to get done. And so I have a list of 10, 15 of those things, and I'm trying to check a couple of those off per week and put those into, or, every couple of weeks, put them into my daily and weekly calendar. And then I periodically kind of rewrite that. But that's like my big projects for the year. And even stuff like, here's mine in front of me: I'll upgrade the phone system at the clinic, and write a Labor Day sale letter and hire a marketing director. So it's kind of big projects for, over time. So that's been a really good system. But no matter what system you use, you got to get your day done before you start it. You got to get it written out and figure out your day. Or especially with us or any business, you're just going to get, start catching fires or putting out fires all day long and never get the important stuff done. And I find getting it done in the morning is helpful as well. Getting it done before patients or before clients or before the day gets started is really the way to get things done as well.
That's good. So what you're saying, the main thing is just sitting down at the beginning of the day and planning out what's really important that day, and also looking ahead at your week in review and just making sure you're ticking all the boxes of the most important things first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to get those big things in there, because especially, you said you just get caught up putting out fires all day and you'll never get the big stuff done. So yeah, writing out those 3 or 4 or 5 big things to get done and getting them checked off your list every day is working out really well. Yeah, there's a lot of systems out there. That's what works for me. So I pass that along. But yeah, you got to get your to-do list done and get your big stuff done during the day.
Yeah, and I agree. I do the same thing. I remember reading somewhere once, and it said if you start planning your day, technically, that morning, then you've already missed out. You should really be doing it the night before. It's just look at the day ahead and actually have it planned out. So I did the same thing even this morning. First thing I got written on my list here is talk to Dr. J.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's first thing. Yeah, and that's a good point on that too. I actually start on Sunday. I sit down, I have a home office, and I'll do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and those 3, 4, 5 important things I need done are done before Sunday, before I walk in Monday, and then I already know. And of course, things get added on, and interviews come and go and all that. But yeah, you're right; it should even be done before that morning.
That'd be funny. That'd be a good Monday morning. That'd be a good Monday morning tip, wouldn't it? You say to the guy, "Well, okay, here's my tip. You should have planned about this last night."
Yeah, yeah. And
Monday
I try
morning
to get it done. Yeah, it's too late. You're right. I mean, I have that week planned out and all ready to go before Monday. So yeah, absolutely, that is a good point. And then I review it, and there might be things that need to be added, but that works really good. And Google Calendar would be the other thing that really kind of helped me stay organized, especially with these interviews and podcasts and stuff. Putting everything on Google Calendar, so you have it, and I have it at home, you have it at work, and there's no confusion there. I used to my wife ran my home calendar, and then my office staff ran my work calendar, and the two never coordinated. And then we got a Google Calendar, and now everybody's much happier.
So are you using the Google Calendar in your practice as well?
Yeah, a little bit. We don't use it for patients or anything like that, but we're all, Google Suite for work, and they're all on it, and all the appointments are on, not appointments, but like, interviews, or we also put, who's out this day. Dr. Z's out on Tuesday, and Dr. Carlock's out this week, and so vacations don't transfer over, and so we've used it for work, and it works pretty well that way.
Okay, so you've got you got Dr. Z that works with you as well. Do you all go by letters?
I do it. Just Dr. Z. She's a she, and it's Zudema. It's just hard to say, so we call her Dr. Z.
I like that, Dr. Z. I know I've had another podcast guest, Fern Caslow, and she's Dr. K. So I reckon we could get the whole doctor alphabet together at one stage, have an alphabet reunion. That'd be a good party. Yeah. So Dr. J, this has been fantastic. Thank you for coming on It's No Secret with Dr. T. And if people want to connect with you, I just want to let them know the name of your business is Village Family Clinic, or is it Village Family Chiro? I found two different names online.
Yes, it's actually the Chiro is the LLC, and when I was only chiropractor, I had that, and the Village Family Clinic is our DBA once we added other services. So, Village Family Clinic, you can Google us, or it's hackettstownfamilyclinic.com. But you can Google and spy on what I do. And then on the coaching and the book and all that, it's just my name. It's Dr. James Fedich, FEDICH.com.
Okay, that is fantastic. Dr. J, thank you for being on the show again. And I'm sure we will chat again in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Dr. Tyson.
Geez, I must admit, I do get some interesting guests on my show, and I'd say Dr. J is one of them. And it was a great conversation. There's 3 points that I just want to mention again. The first one was about being aware of fake gurus. If you're being approached by someone as a business coach, as a consultant, as a mentor, just verify what they've done in the past and just make sure what they're talking about, they have actually done. It's not just theory. The second takeaway point was when he was talking about retention and maintaining contact with your patients, clients, and customers. Don't become that person that nobody can remember the name. And the third thing I think is really important, it's not so much about growing the business, it's about growing yourself as a leader and a manager. I think you need to drive that point home. So my guest next week is Esty Rand. Now, Esty is based in LA, and she has a business called Strand Consulting, and she is a firecracker. Here's a short audio snippet of what you're in for next week.
Okay, so this is actually one of my real clients, okay? And sometimes he just jumps the gun a little bit, like between talks. Like he's on like more of a low burner retainer, so we speak, every month or so. And I don't know, something just hit him up and he got all inspired. And I think he just didn't want to ask me because I think he knew I was going to say no and he really wanted to do this. That's what I think. But basically he got this advertisement that he could be on the radio, and talk about his practice, and he was all excited. He's gonna be on the radio. So the next time we speak, now mind you, like only about a month has passed since last time I spoke to him. He's like, Esty, guess what? I did this really cool marketing thing. I know you probably were gonna tell me not to do it, but I did it, and I was on the radio. I'm like, great, what radio station? He's like, oh, I'm not really sure. I'm like, well, did anyone hear it broadcast? He's like, yeah, they told me they have like, millions of listeners. I'm like, okay, did you hear it broadcast? He's like, yeah, they sent me the recording. I'm like, where did you get any calls from it? He's like, no, not yet. I'm like, and where is it? He's like, it's some kind of like the online broadcasting company. I'm like, dude, I always wondered who those scammers got. It's you. Okay, you were on. He's like, but they really interviewed me. I'm like, great, I could really interview anybody and charge you $5,000 to go nowhere.
So as you can see, Esty gets pretty fired up, and when you listen to the whole conversation, there are some massive fired up moments, and we actually have a few laughs as well. So if you have any questions about this particular podcast episode, please send me an email at tf@tysonfranklin.com, or just go to my website, tysonfranklin.com. And like I always say, if you love this episode, share it with friends, family, work, colleagues. And if you happen to be on your podcast platform, I'd love a review. 5-star review would be awesome. Okay, that's it from me. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.